Here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Good deal. Hey guys, I've got here in York, coming up on 8:30. I guess we need to get started. I know the most important part of today is actually taking the exam. So good luck to everyone. Hope things go well. Hope you score the best you scored. So we wanted to kind of give this interaction with the business portion of the meeting, business meeting for this portion of the day where it coincides with the exam. I can tell you we're currently trying to move this business meeting to another day, another alternative. But right now we're trying to kind of wing this thing by doing it regionally. I know last year, some people seen a recording, some people did not, but we wanted to give an opportunity for those who had questions. And so I'm just going to lead into probably the most important thing is the constitutional change, dealing with the 5% threshold for districts. I know what the wording says. Everyone's had an opportunity to kind of look at the old bylaw, old constitution versus the new proposed constitution change. And I know there's some heartburn with the and/or, and I'm just going to kind of give you a brief rundown on how I look at the and/or, and then I'll
Yeah, you something.
Hey, Lee, you're muted.
Oh, thank you. I guess when it got muted, everyone muted me as well. Sorry about that. I was saying, I'm kind of giving it layman terms on how I perceive that to be. I know what the technical terms say, but I'm not a doctor or engineer or anything like that. So what I try to do is break it down to where it's understandable for me. So I know there's some heartburn between the and/or, and the way I look at it is if you're under the threshold, and what we mean by the threshold is if you're under the threshold where I think last year's numbers were 35. So if you had less than 35 members in your district, you were under the threshold for potentially getting a letter of dissolution. And after a year, if you hadn't come above that threshold for that year, then your district would be dissolved. That was the old meaning behind it. But for me, and what the board is proposing is if the word and comes into play, where if you're under the threshold and you're able to cover your sub-varsity games. When I say sub-varsity games, we're not talking middle school. We're talking 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, whether they call it B team, C team, D team, however they call it. But we're talking the varsity portion of the sub-varsity. If you're able to cover those games, then the threshold's waived, right? So what that means is they're trying to find a way to, as long as you're adhering to what you need to do per the high school league is to cover those games, then that threshold's waived and your district stays intact. Where the or comes in is if you're over the threshold, or if you're over the threshold but not able to cover your games, that's where the or comes into play. And I can tell you from across the state, talking with people, that the majority, if not all, the districts cover their games, whether it be help from other districts or this or that. And we didn't specify that your district had to cover that game. We just said cover. And that cover is kind of vague. And we left it vague to the point where districts can reach out to other districts for help. So that's kind of the interpretation of where we were going with the resolution and the proposed resolution that you'll vote on today. I know there's some people across the state that like the old way and it's worked, but it hadn't been enforced. I know there's people like the new way of wanting to keep districts and not close. So it's kind of hit or miss. That's why we put it out to the membership. So in saying that, I'm just going to open up for any comments, concerns, questions, and we'll go from there. Garrett's going to kind of mediate that, if you would. just throw your hand up in the chat and we'll get to you. And I think that's the best way to acknowledge instead of everyone talking on top of everyone. Let's see. I haven't seen anything in the chat. Any concerns, questions? I know there's got to be something because my explanation probably didn't stand for everyone. So I figured this will be the biggest portion of the business meeting because of the constitutional change. Well, I'm hearing none, which is kind of odd. But let's see here. I see something from Jonathan here. He states, my concern is a district with 12 people will have the same voting rights as a director has a district with 100 people. Unfortunately, that is correct. Our Constitution states about having the 13 districts statewide. There's no like electoral, like kind of like when someone runs for state office, like president or vice president, whatever. There's no like electoral college where the people with the most in their district gets extra votes. Here, it's just being a nonprofit board. We're just one vote for one district, and that district's represented by a district director. So I understand that concern, and I can tell you that has been kicked around and talked about. And again, that might be addressed at a later date, but we didn't address that this year. The biggest thing we were wanting to do is try to see how the members felt about the dissolution of districts versus the threshold with membership and being able to cover their sub-varsity games. Jonathan, great question though. Great question. And like I said, I know that has been kicked around a good bit. So that concern is noted. Anyone else? Again, I had someone ask me what my preference was, and I'm just going to state that because I know it's kicked around here. York is, of course, by proposing a resolution, we're not in favor of closing districts. So let's see. I got someone here from a Samsung phone. I don't have a name with it, but it says legally and means both parameters and are required for dissolution, or means only one of the parameters are required. Which is it? Well, we try to give that open end option with the and or with the and being under the threshold or being over the threshold. But again, there's no district in the state that don't cover their sub-varsity games right now, currently. Even the districts that are under the threshold. if anybody wants to talk, or you just hold your hand up in the chat and Garrett will administer that and let you speak. But if you want to put it in the chat, that's okay too. Well, I guess the main concern of the day is the exam, which that's where it should be. Uh, I think that's where the focus needs to be today, and that's the reason we're proposing possibly moving this business meeting to another a date, whether it be at the annual clinic or some other time. Telford, good question. How will the district be restored? I can tell you from past experiences, there's no district that has been dissolved and restored to my knowledge. I think the last district that was closed was Buford, and that district in that area has never recovered. The opportunity to restore a district is with the letter. We send a letter for possible dissolution, and we revisit that after a year. So you have a year if you want that district restored. It's about applying and getting above that threshold or that membership. And with the new resolution, it's going to be if you can't cover your varsity, sub-varsity games, to be able to cover those games. So should the process be defined along with dissolution, how will the district be restored? Yeah, I mean, I don't think we, as a board, I know we talked about it, but I don't think that went into the resolution portion of it. I do think that in the areas that are areas of concern, I think we really need to look at those before we want to really take a hard look before we dissolve those districts. But some of those are pretty hard to cover with the outlining areas of other districts. So absolutely. Good question, Telford. No, the process is not incomplete. The process is, again, it ain't to restore a district. It is to keep that district intact as long as they're able to cover their sub-varsity games. Anyone else? All right. Anyone got Any more comments, questions, concerns? Well, I don't see anything else, so I guess we're getting ready to take an exam here in a few minutes. Oh, yep, nope, nobody else. Um, all right, Garrett, do you have anything on your end? Can you hear me? You have anything on your end? Hey, Ted, I see you had something on there. I just missed that.
But can you hear me, Lee?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay, I apologize. I have been struggling
No.
getting my mic to work, I guess. But
Oh, you're fine, sir.
I had sent you an email. I had several problems.
Yes, sir.
And I had the same problems when this came up 2 years ago.
Okay.
The Constitution says geographical districts and then has a population component.
Yes, sir.
And as you said, this isn't about governments and representation equally. It's about providing an opportunity for officials in the rural, less populated areas to have something close to them so that
Yes,
they
sir.
can have an opportunity to view. So I believe from the beginning, the percentage of the state population is a bad metric to judge a district on. Now, as you said, as long as they're covering the games, great. That should be the key metric. Are they covering their games?
Yes, sir.
If we look at the districts that are close to the threshold, most of them are adjacent to each other. So dissolving any of them creates a hardship on all those officials because then they're all going a long distance. The amendment doesn't create any possibility for merging of districts, which should have been considered in when we did this. So it to me, when it came out, it felt rushed because it came out to the population of the membership 30 days before the meeting.
Right.
And limited our discussion and our input on crafting it at the beginning. So I would like to see us take a step back and look at this again next year and get it right, not just what appears to me to get it done. But that's just my opinion. And I appreciate you taking time to listen to me.
Ted, just to kind of redirect, I agree with almost everything you said. I agree with, I think we're both, we don't want to see districts go away. But I think this is just the first step in a process per se, of trying to not to dissolute a district. I think the conversation would be according to how the members feel on this vote, but I think next year it could possibly be something about if, let's say, two districts that are side by side, and they're on the threshold or under the threshold, and they want to merge. Of course, that's the conversation we could have. But just for this and this purpose only, we were just trying to find a quick way because every district right now currently in the state covers their sub-varsity games. But if the next, if the next president or the president after that or whatever, if we didn't feel like we should have tried to at least amend these bylaws and we had to adhere to the constitutional bylaws like we should be doing, then that means those districts will dissolve. And I agree with you. That should be an option on the table about merging. I agree with Telford. There should be a process of being able to come back from it. But that process of coming back from it as well is within that year. I mean, we just don't send a letter and wash our hands of that district and say, best of luck. We as a board and we as a state will try our best to incorporate everything we can to save that district. So I think that was one of the things that we talked about, kicked around with the board of directors. I understand where you're coming from. I understand what you're saying. And of course, the focus is on covering the games and all that more so than the population. But we just had to take that first step away from the Constitution. This was the first step. And we wanted to present it to the membership. So therefore, if the membership didn't feel the way the board did, at least they had that voice with the vote. And so again, Ted, first of all, appreciate your email you sent me earlier. Very detailed, very direct, and thank you for that. But I think we align in some areas, we don't. But again, I think it's worth a conversation. So thank you for your comment.
And you brought up something that just reminded me. The timing in there seemed off to me in the wording. You were getting a letter in August, and if you didn't have your membership upgraded by the next May, you could be dissolved.
Could be, possibly, yes, sir.
That doesn't give a district meaningful opportunity to resolve the issue.
I agree.
We register in August, we're not going to have another registration before May.
Right.
So,
And that was when, and say that this constitutional part of it applies to the old registration where it applied the year, we wouldn't do it in the same year. We were doing it the following year. So we had a year belt to go under. And see, that's something that's got to be taken under advisement as well.
Done sheet. Done sheet.
All right, guys. I think we're probably to the point where we probably need to get ready to take the exam. This will start at 9. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you for the interaction. Ted, Telford, and the ones that were on here I couldn't identify. Thank you for your comments. And good luck on your exam, and we'll see how the vote goes for the state. And that will determine the next step. So thank you, guys. Enjoyed it. And of course, my door's always open. My email is too. So look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Is the Zoom call over with? Once again, is the Zoom call over with?
It's